Hello and welcome back. You're tuned into Revision Hub with Jazzy J. So, one of my amazing follower, student, very hardworking, is doing really well with her exams. She sent a message saying a big thank you for the amazing videos and amazing work that I am doing. So, thank you so much for your kind words. And she's also asked me to do a video on something which she doesn't understand. So, this video is specially for you. Everyone out there, if you have any other queries or any other questions that you'd like to clarify, please do text me. I do respond and I would love to hear from you too. So, this is especially for this lovely individual. So, let's get straight into it. So, identity. Before we understand identity, we must understand the basic definition of identity. Identity is qualities, beliefs, personalities, expressions that make a person or a group of people's identity. So it can make an identity of a person, single person, or a group of different people. When you make an identity of a person, it's known as self-identity. You must have come across this word within your daily life someday. And also, it's very important to understand that identity can be positive and negative. So there are two sides of identity, it's not always positive. And according to sociologists, it's found that identity can be classed into two sections. Think of it like this, as similarities as well as differences. So I'll be going into this in more depth. So let's get into more depth right now. So similarities is the first section. Similarities is where we all share similar characteristics with each other and the people around us. And this happens because we are all socialized into norms and values. For those of you who don't know, norms is something normal. For example, table manners. If my parents have taught me table manners, so that's something every parent teaches their child. So hence we all share similar table manners like other people around us. Hence, it falls into the similarities bracket where we all share similar characteristics with other people around us because we live in a society which depends on norms and values. I'll give a quick example. For example, if I meet someone new and I want to be a friend with that person, what is the first thing we try to do? We try to know each other. We try to find out what is common between us, what are the similarities and differences. So think of this as identity, okay? So identity can be similarities we have with individuals, and those similarities are due to various different norms and values because we live in a society and the society believes in norms and values, hence, that forms our characteristics. So think of it as similarities. Moving on to sociologists. So I want you guys to write down these sociologists, and after you've written down these sociologists, it's very important to link it with my previous slide. So, linking this in. Jerkins, a sociologist which we have actually heard of, argues that there are two different types of identities, individual identity as well as the collective group identity. Bradley, another sociologist, argues that there are two types of identities individuals form. The first type of identity is passive identity, identity which you're born into. This includes gender, age, class, and ethnicity. It's a type of identity which we're socialized within our daily life, and maybe we are born into it. The second is identity which things which we chase, things that we aspire to become. For example, some people may aspire to be actors, actresses, makeup artists, singers, dancers. So there are two types of identities, passive and active. So I want you guys to pause the video and try to link this last slide with this and sociologists, because remember, the exam you must always have 2 or 3 sociologists to back your point up. So we've looked at similarities, let's look at the differences. By having differences, it makes individuals unique and different from others. Wood argues that when people choose to be different, it's simply based on a choice, and once they've made up their mind, you know what, we're going like this, they will go like that. So we must understand that within identity, there's some similarities which we have, but also there's some differences, and these differences make us unique from the rest. So, there are various different types of identities which we really need to understand after we've obviously understood the definition of identities and looked at the similarities and differences. So, there are different types of identities. One clue is gender identities, which is on the page. Pause and have a think. What other type of identities can you think of? Okay, so the different types of identities could be ethnic identities, class identities, age identities, So these are the different types of identities that are there. So we're going to be looking into each into detail. So we've got gender identities. This can include sex, femininity, whether you are passive, you conform, or you subvert the traditional stereotypical ideologies of femininity. How children are socialized into their gender roles is something which helps to form your gender identity. So whether you go as a male, female, bi, or other sexual identities. Whether you play the instrumental role or the expressive role. Who said this? It is Parsons looked at the instrumental as well as expressive role. You can link sociologists in. Please, please, please do so. And how children are socialized into gender roles is a whole video on that where we looked about in education mostly. So it all comes together. So please link that in. When we looked at gender subject choices, you'll be able to find that video there. Gender roles, gender identities help to form gender roles and masculinity as well. So if men conform to the hegemonic masculinity or they subvert that type of masculinity. So socialization all enforces this. So socialization, which we'll be looking at in the next few slides, it all enforces all of these different things on the slide. Ethnic identities, again, Mudhood argues that ethnicity can be defined via a number of different factors. For example, the background we are in, the food, ancestry, or culture. So ethnicity can depend on 4 different things, and that's what Mudhood argues, and this can determine what ethnic background we belong to. Ethnicity and nationality is another example there. And hybridity is a mix of 2 different cultures. For example, your mother was from another culture, your father was from a totally different culture, and it's known as hybridity, where you have a mix of 2 different cultures. So you must understand that ethnic, gender, and all of these things make individuals unique from each other. So that's where it comes in with the definition when we looked at the differences. Class identities is another one. So we can look at Marxists, the bourgeoisies, as well as the proletarians, how they have more cultural capital because they are socialized into education, they've got the money. This is all in education, guys. So if you go into my education video where we looked at bourgeois, cultural capital, or habitus, you'll find it all there. You can just link those sociologists in with this, and there you go, you've got the perfect answer. So obviously, middle class, working class, upper class, they all have their own type of identity. So here we look at the fact that gender, class, ethnicity, all of these form identities which make individuals unique from each other, which forms the definition of identities. Age identity is again another one. We all go through a state of life where we are infants, then we grow up, we go to older people, etc. So this is the life course approach which we need to be aware of, which is quite similar because every single individual's identity forms on this structure because we all go through this structure. Not one person goes through elderly whilst other people just don't get old. Everyone goes through this age structure, which is very important to understand. Okay, so socialization and the importance of socialization. So, family, norms and values from family is very important because socialization forms the key basis of learning norms and values which are normal within society, which gives us those similarities. So also children are rewarded if they do something good and punished or if they do not behave well. So family gives some sort of disciplinary net. So socialization of family is very, very important because it teaches us norms and values, what's right and what's wrong. And also it teaches us how to live in society, to adopt society's culture as well. So we can see how family socialization is very important because of these factors. Religion, again, could be another form of socialization. It's very, very important because religion, religious scriptures really tell us what we should do and what should we not do. For example, the 10 commandments tell us what's right to do and what's wrong to do, and this forms our identity. And this may be similar as well as different from each other around us because everyone thinks differently. Religion also tells us to, what you don't do, murder, you don't commit theft, etc. So religion actually helps us to socialize into the society much better, and religion is very, very important because it tells us, don't do this is wrong, you'll be punished, etc. And also religion can also tell us the clothes that we wear. For example, in Muslim culture, I think they have to cover till their arms, like their forearms, their skin should not show, or it's something of that sort. Sorry if I've got that wrong there, but that's an example which you can use. Remember to always keep using examples because it helps the examiner. Okay, media, another one. So media is really, really good in some way because media has power over the audience. It helps to form our gender identity. For example, if we see a very a soap opera, for example, and we can see a young woman who's very, very empowered, we tend to behave like that. And also, it's really, really important to see how the media really helps to form individuals' gender identities, tell us what men are, what women are, what they expected to be, how they're meant to dress. So media plays a huge, huge, huge role within our socialization. Also, when we look at media, we look at the news, for example, type of media, or we look at the news, and from the news we actually learn, you know what, this is really wrong because you get punished for this. You know what, this is right. So the media is really, really important because it really, really tells individuals that, you know what, you should behave like this and you should not behave like that. But what the problem is with media, it normally stereotypes women as well as creates various different stereotypical perspectives. And that helps some people, whilst it does not help some people to form their gender identity on how they expect to behave. So hopefully this video is very, very good and you've understood it. If you have any questions, please direct message me on Instagram. I'll be willing to help you. So thank you so much for tuning in to Revision Hub with Jazzy J, and thank you so much for that amazing, amazing student who had the guts and came off and said, you know what, I need help on this. So thank you so much, and a huge, huge well done to her for all the hard work that she's putting in. Thank you so much, and stay tuned and stay subscribed to Revision Hub with Jazzy J.